I see her falling in the trenches, brothers, fathers, and sons, naive to consequences, some too young to hunger. I have nothing left to give. I have given everything. King and queen. I see her falling in the beaches, in the summer of 44. Uncle Sam brought his nephew to help us win the war. I have nothing left to give. I have given everything to the king and queen. I see the falling in the sun, with no idea how to love, to drain the oil from the land. Death for a political lie. I have nothing left to give. I have given everything. I have nothing left to give. I have given everything to the king and queen.
And that last song was by a performer called T.S. Andrews. He's a big fan of mine and he wanted to send me some music for his pre-show feeding. I always say anyone who produces music is more than welcome to send me their music, and I'm happy to share it with my community. So there you go, I hope you enjoyed this as well. He's got a whole new album out there as worth checking out with T.S. Andrews. It's on Spotify, it'll be on YouTube soon. It's on the usual sort of places, you can check it out in there. And good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Picnic Table Chat Show. This is episode 6, and I just want to say a massive welcome to all the new people watching tonight. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining. Tonight we have an awesome guest with us. We have Chris from AntsRus. So without putting it off any longer, let's welcome Chris. Hello, buddy.
Hey guys, how you doing? I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm brilliant, mate. I'm really good, thank you. So what's been going on?
Well, we've been quite busy actually. So obviously bank holiday weekend, it was intense. We had literally tons of orders to get through. Also, in addition to that, lots of, obviously it's the season of nocturnal flights. It started, spring's here. So a lot of European ants are coming in stock in the next couple of weeks and have come in stock this week. A few exotics have been added to the store as well. So we've been really busy, really busy.
Yeah, I have seen that you had a few stock updates, including Nico's were there a few weeks ago,
yeah. Quite a few. They've all laid eggs now, so they're all good. I got some Singularis as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
I was going to say about the Nico's. I've noticed they're really popular. Are you expecting them to just fly out off the shelves, basically?
Yeah, they tend to be quite like an entry exotic ant species, right? So they're quite relatively hardy for an exotic ant, and they're quite entry level exotic, and the colorations are nice, right? So
yeah, and they do get majors as well, don't they?
Yeah. Like obviously, there's a lot of different stages and different, like as the colony becomes more mature, the majors will be different sizes, right? So you'll get like an almost super major type workers as well.
Yeah, which we all love to see.
Yeah.
I also noticed. Sorry, I'm absolutely roasting. So if you see sweat dripping off me,
lucky for some.
Well, yeah. I don't know. It's not natural heat. It's in between two massive tanks, and the heat's just not going anywhere.
Okay.
I also noticed that you had, and I'm going to pronounce it wrong. We know I pronounce it wrong. Lasius umbratus. Is that?
Oh yes. So yeah, I've always had an interest in like more parasitic Lasius species and like harder to come by. Like obviously we all know like Lasius niger, Lasius flavus is quite common, but I've always had a thing for more like parasitic types or rarer types of Lasius because I think they're just generally really cool. So yeah, I've got some Lasius umbratus. They've got brood, they've got pupae. So the first workers are ready to go. I've also sourced some Lasius alienus. Lasius emerginatus as well, so they'll be coming in the next week or two. So yeah, I'm quite keen on alternative Lasius species.
Yeah, no, that's really exciting. Like you say, it's nice to see something different to the standard nigers and flavus.
Yeah.
Have you got any advice for keeping parasitic ants?
Oh, that's a pretty good one. I would say they're quite hard to keep in general if you're starting with a queen, right? But you can actually add Lasius niger brood or Lasius flavus brood to like a Lasius parasitic queen, and they will grow and they would work for the parasitic colony already. That's probably the best and most ethical way to introduce a parasitic queen, because the other alternative is to add to an existing colony, but the success rate is probably like a 50-50 in terms of whether she'll kill the existing queen. And obviously there's ethics there as well. Obviously it does happen in nature, but you're in control of that process.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I think that it's a hard one to sort of debate in my mind personally, whether it's acceptable to do that. Like you say, it's done in nature, but actually forcing it is another matter, isn't it?
Yeah, if you're doing it for like research purposes, you're a scientist, then maybe like these things have to be done. But if it doesn't have to be done, I would advise against it. A life is a life at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah. No, that's really cool. Yeah. So when it comes to like brood boosting and things, would you advise literally just taking it out of the Lasius niger colony?
If you have your own existing Lasius niger colony, you can nurture the brood. It's best not to just dig up a wild colony because you can disturb it. It could be in like a particular period of time, say pre-nuptial flights.
Yeah.
You could get loads of queens. You could cause colony collapse, really. So if you take it for an existing, or if you get from a supplier and stuff like that, rather than just taking it from the wild.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's something I've been talking to some of my American friends about, is digging up wild colonies. Over there, it's like quite, normally accepted, like, it's quite the done thing as such. Me personally, I don't like the idea of digging up a colony because, like you say, it could cause the whole colony to collapse, or you might not even get the queen.
Yeah, and it's not just the colony, it's part of an ecosystem, right? So the ants are part of the environment. They're interacting with the environment. They're keeping certain pests at bay. They're potentially pollinating. They're also potentially helping the vegetation, the plants grow, protecting aphids and stuff like that. So you're interfering with nature and you're affecting the habitat.
Yeah, no, definitely. So what's your kind of opinion on putting a colony back into the wild?
Oh, that's a good question. As long as the species is native, it could work very well, because there are problems with rarer ants in the UK, for example, like Rufobarbis, something like that, right? And like reintroducing populations into the wild. I think that's a good idea. As long as they're native, like I'm all for it, because they'll either make or break, right? They'll either find their niche and they'll succeed or they'll fail. It's as simple as that, really.
Yeah, no, that's fair. One thing that always concerned me about it is if you're adding in a new ant colony to an existing ant colony area, it's just going to cause conflicts. But it's one of those things, isn't it?
Yeah, it will create conflicts, but I guess there'll be a bit of an environmental pressure on both parts, right? What is the alternative? If the alternative is killing the colony that you have, then maybe it's better to let them go and see if they can make it.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Yeah, because it is something that I've come across a lot again recently, is people are getting overwhelmed by their colonies and not really sure what to do with it. And quite a few of them have said that they've released them back into the wild and they didn't know what sort of impact it would have. They were all native species, thank God. But it's one of those things.
And also people need to bear in mind, you can technically control population, right? Like how much you feed your ants, the temperature that you keep them, you can keep your population under control. I think a lot of ant keepers in general tend to overfeed their colonies, maybe because they want them to grow quick. And then maybe before they know it, they're overwhelmed, and they're at that point where you talk about should I get rid of them? Should I keep them? There's too many. And you've got a plan for the long term. And most ant colonies grow big into the thousands, right? It's not just, most colonies are not a couple of hundred, they're thousands. And at the end of the day, you have to take that into account, and you have to plan for the long term if you're going to keep an ant colony.
Yeah, definitely. It's one thing I always tell anyone I'm speaking to is plan for the growth. If you've got two shelves, only fill one of them, because you're going to need the second for when they get larger.
Yeah. And also queens live 25 to 35 years.
A long time.
It's not like it's a 1 to 2 year hobby, which a lot of hobbies are, like with certain animals, right? With certain insects, they don't live as long as queen ants.
Yeah. I said this to my daughter actually, because she's got a Lasius niger colony and a Mesobarbarus colony, and she's only 8 herself. So I said, she could potentially have that colony up until she's an adult, my age, and it needs to be well cared for and well looked after, but it can last a really, really long time. Like I say, much longer than a dog could potentially, and cats and things like that. And I think because she's quite young still, she's really grown attached to it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. It's like, if she could stroke it like a dog, she would,
But it's also like, say if you was to plant a plant, like you grow it from a seed, you've invested that time, and it's automatic that you're going to be. It's like when you have a child, right? It's the same principle. Like you invest so much into it, and like you become naturally possessive towards. It's just a natural instinct.
Yeah. No, it's interesting how those nurturing instincts just kick in with random things, isn't it? My daughter, the one we're talking about, actually did ask a really interesting question. What would you recommend an ant keeper does when the colony starts producing alates and they're looking to fly?
Yeah, like as long as they're native, you could pop them into the nuptial flights in your outside environment, really, because they can join the flights and they can go on to populate in other areas and other spaces.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
If they're native, yeah, just let them out when there's a nuptial flight in your area and see if they fly out.
Yeah. What would you recommend if they're not native?
I would recommend just keep them in the tanks, right? It's best not to let them out. Some species do like secondary establishment in which they would basically fertilize within the tanks, and they would create more queens, because obviously the queens don't mate with just one male, they mate with multiple males, the first initial queen. So there will be in a few species there's genetic diversity enough that they can reproduce without technically being so incest that you know.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things I think my polyrachus are going to do, because I've still got two queens in there. They have got obviously separate bloodlines, and I'm hoping they do inbreed, not inbreed, but inbreed.
Yeah. I think it's possible with that with polyrachus. I think they're likely to do it in a domestic setting without issues.
Yeah. Now I was thinking because I've only got two queens, if they go on to have second and third generation queens, then they would be inbreeding between bloodlines. So it would eventually be the end of the colony in that way, I think. I might be wrong.
In terms of genetic diversity, but you also have to bear in mind that also like genes, like genetics are continuously changing. Like with me and you, is something called like epigenetics, right? Say if we experience a stressful situation, our DNA will make small changes and continuously making errors and mutating over time. So that could potentially counteract on insects. It could be at a greater level. I guess we don't know, but they can technically change their DNA within that time frame that they're alive, and they could technically be slightly different to the previous generation.
Yeah,
I would say probably insects are more likely not to have, like, say, recessive genes in which would be disadvantageous to them within a domestic setting. Maybe within a non-domestic setting, like in the wild, it might be disadvantaged. But if they're constantly fed, constantly have water, in theory, it should be relatively okay.
You said some massive words there, which just blew my mind.
Yeah, so like epigenetics is just it's like a continuous change in our DNA. It's like small modifications within our DNA while we're alive. Like you would pass on DNA to your children that will be different from the day you were born, right?
Yeah. No, that makes complete sense. It brings me up to an interesting thing, actually. I've noticed recently, and it's not just me, it's been documented, that some ant species are starting to work together more. And I think, like you were saying, it's just that adaptation of how the world's becoming.
Yeah, it's really interesting, like the cohabiting and the symbiosis relationships that insects and ants have together, right? To complete probably a mutual goal, which is mutually beneficial for both of them. And obviously, in the environment that we're living, there's a lot of uncertainty now. There's the climate is changing, and we can see it. We can see it with ants, like the nuptial flights. They seem to be a lot smaller, and there's like a bigger staggering of them because of the droughts. Because recently we've had quite a lot of dry weather. Like I predict that I've seen nest expansion early this year. So I think potentially nuptial flights within the UK will occur probably like early June, maybe the first flights, really.
Yeah, I was thinking like May time, early June.
Yeah, which is unusual because they usually start in about June, like a few days into June, maybe like the 15th, the 10th, you know, like from the last years that I've experienced before. We've had like, we tend to have a lot of dry spells and then a lot of wet weather, but having a lot of wet weather around the time of nuptial flights kind of puts them off flying. and it
Yes.
makes it difficult for them, you know?
Yeah. We've got an interesting question here from Darth Vader. It's always interesting to have Darth Vader in the chat, so welcome. Big Star Wars fan. So, how do ants cope with hot weather?
Well, that's a really interesting question. So, like, say within domestic, like within the UK, right? They'll just go underground. They'll if they feel like they're getting too hot, they'll just go underground. It's a lot cooler. That might become more challenging as the climate changes for them. There's also like a cataglyphis desert ants. They're built to withstand potentially in a short period of time temperatures up to 50 degrees Celsius.
Wow.
Within short periods of time, their bodies can cope. So they've adapted for those levels of temperature change.
Wow, that's quite hot.
Yeah, very hot. And also there's like subspecies of cataglyphis, like they have like silver hairs on them,
Right,
and they're able to reflect heat, right? So they've adapted to reflect heat, so they can survive in like the Sahara Desert, for example.
Yeah. Just following on from that, we've got a question from I might pronounce it wrong, Katie Newman. How many days can ants go without food, and how many days can they go without water?
So without food, it would be, or I think potentially up to 6 weeks. Some species.
Yes, I'd agree with that actually.
Yeah. And without water, it's only about 3 or 4 days. Like humans, it's the same because most of their bodies are liquid, just like us. Because we could survive probably months without food as well. Because we'll just break down fats and organs potentially to survive.
Which doesn't sound fun.
No, but you've got to survive, right? So
yeah, that's it. Your body does what it does. I've ran out of water with all my ant colonies before, and literally you will start noticing them die off within a day or so. Like you say, 2-3 days, and that's it. It's quite fast, and it's dramatically fast. Like you instantly notice it's all going wrong.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like obviously, shipping process plays a heavy role in that for us as a company. Like we try to get, especially during the heat, like we use very efficient shipping methods, like international. Usually, it takes about like 2 days to ship to around Europe, like 3 days max. There's little to no like dead on arrivals. Like obviously sometimes it does happen, unfortunately, especially during the heat wave, but we'll just compensate where we'll just we'll choose a specific collection time and we'll just insulate the packages and stuff like that.
One last thing from this list of questions is, if it gets really hot out, say we're having like 35-degree weather, our ants aren't meant to get that hot. Is there anything you'd recommend to cool them down?
Yeah, like I would keep a thermometer around, right? So I would find the coolest part of the house is probably the cheapest way to do it. Like usually it tends to be probably something like in the kitchen, like in a kitchen cupboard. I would probably, they're quite cool. Houses tend to be at least a few degrees lower than the external temperature. In addition, like say there's sensitive colonies, such as like more sensitive, like leaf cutters. The fungus is quite sensitive. Probably putting fans on. You could probably use ice as well to cool the fungus down, because it tends to be a problem with leaf cutter ant colonies and fungus during heat waves. I think a lot of collectors that have those species do have problems when it gets very hot.
No, because it's so sensitive, the slightest thing can throw it.
Yeah. And it's hard to get it back once it starts to go down.
Yeah, no, I've heard that a lot about leaf cutters as well. They're so difficult to get to go wrong. That didn't make sense.
Wrong, so
difficult to keep alive.
Yeah, because you're not just you don't have to just care for the ants. You got to care for the fungus, and the fungus needs certain parameters. In the wild, those nests will be like 6 feet underground, right? They'll have their own ventilation systems where they expel the stale air and allow new air to come in, and it's a specialized process.
I'm just going to answer a couple more questions coming up in the chat. We've got another one from Darth Vader, a question for both of us. over time, have you both grown to like an ant, and why? And what is your most disliked? So basically, our favorite ant and why, and our
Okay, yeah, okay.
least favorite. Yeah. Do you want that one, Chris?
Yeah, go on. Ooh, my most favorite. I don't know. Like I have a lot of ants I generally like. I would say I would probably say for European species, my most favorite ants are like I would say Mesobarbarus, because I like the caste system and they're relatively easy to keep, and Camponotus crurentatus. I really like their coloration as well. My least favorite of a European ant, probably something like pavement ants. Generally,
Okay.
they're not something that I like too much in terms of I don't know, their size. Maybe like I like my ants bigger, maybe, but like generally, like to me, like ants are ants, right? I sell them, I love them, but in terms of exotics, I really like honeypot ants. I think they're really cool. They're quite amazing. Trapjaw ants I really like Venator as well. They're really cool. And in terms of ants that I dislike, like I really like what Diacama looks like, Diacama rugosum, but I hate it when they sting me. So when I get stung by them, it hurts a lot. But they're cool, but until they sting me, not so much.
Yeah, that's fair. Have you been stung by them much?
A few times. The first time was pretty horrific. I don't know. Like for me, it was pretty horrific. Like I'm used to being stung by like Marmorica ruber, right? But then once you get stung on the finger by a Diacama, then you know what a real sting is.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I've only been stung once by the Diacama, and I turned into a little girl.
Yeah, it's awful.
Yeah, it's not pleasant, And like you say, I'm quite happy like getting bit by the Polyrhacus dives. Nothing at all. One sting from them put me out of action.
For how long?
Only 5 minutes, you know.
Okay. You're just crying for 5 minutes.
If you get something like that, you've got to use it as an excuse as much as you can. You know, you can't do anything then for a week.
You want sick leave?
Yeah, that's it. Brilliant. If anyone else has any more questions, feel free to just keep chucking them in, and we will answer all the questions. But Chris, you do have some amazing news that you wanted to share with us.
Yeah, I did. So like obviously it's a project I've been in planning for like probably 4 or 5 years now. So the workshop is it's going to be, I'm going to start manufacturing nests. So the work actually starts tomorrow, funnily enough. So the prep work in my garden is going to start, the building work, and then it's going to be like groundwork next week. And then there's going to be a big shed that will be used as the workshop and an office space, and that will probably happen in the next couple of weeks. Wow. And then from there, I'll work from there and start getting equipment in and start working out from there. So it will take a little while because I'm doing a lot of work in my house, so I'm quite busy. So I'm busy every day. But yeah, this is the biggest project, single biggest investment I've made in terms of AntsRus, and it's the biggest investment so far I've made in my life in terms of the actual cost of the whole project.
Wow. So it's a massive deal. So with the workshop, like, what are you expecting to actually get out of it?
So I'll be manufacturing nests. Like the aim is to have like like nests and ants together, right? So to bring it into like one store successfully. It's not going to be easy, but that was my goal from many years ago when I started AntsRus, and I'm trying to achieve that objective now. And like the planning has been like meticulous. Like I've planned it down to the screws that are used in some of the construction process. Like it's a lot of Yeah,
no, to be honest, that's probably the best way, because that way you know you're going to get everything right before you even start.
Yeah. Like I want to do it right. Like I don't want to cut any corners on the project. Like it's a huge investment in terms of financial cost.
Yes.
But like this is like, it's going to pay off not just for me, but for the community as well. Like at the end of the day, the money was made through selling ants, right? So I want to invest it and put it back into into the business and put it back into like bringing out stuff for the community that's accessible. And there'll probably be like free nests in terms of like allowing people to trial them and see how they go and give them feedback. So it will be like a process in terms of design and stuff like that.
Brilliant. Have you got any designs already? Obviously, we don't need you to share.
I have a few in mind in my head, that I've been thinking about doing, which is going to be different from the current designs that are out there in the UK. So obviously I have to keep that under wraps.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
For now, but obviously once the nests start being produced, there'll be a process of like project refinement and giving them out to people at no charge to test them out, to see how they go, see if there are any improvements before like a bigger release in terms of the products, because I want to try and get it right in terms of like any potential issues and, you know, for the customers down the line.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think I always say this, you go about things the right way. You do a lot of research and planning before diving in. Completely the opposite to me. I just dive into things and realize where I've gone wrong afterwards. But
but sometimes there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes like you dive in quickly, you learn from your mistakes. All right, it might cost you in some ways, but you still learn. Like and like obviously for me, this is a huge financial risk. But I think it's going to pay off, and I believe in it, believe in the project, and my heart's in the project. So I just want to push through and get it done.
Yeah, I think like when it comes down to these sorts of projects which you're involved with, your heart's always in it. I've noticed that with you. You always like to give back to the community. You've supported me massively throughout my entire time running this channel, and yeah, I just want to say a massive thank you for being so amazing in the ant community.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Like it's part of my whole life really about giving back, because like obviously I am lucky, I am fortunate in a way. It doesn't, like I worked hard to build this, but still you don't have to, it's not all about the money, right? It's about like bringing a community together. It's about like helping the community out and helping other people that maybe you didn't get the same help they did, but you can still give them help and helping others around you. And like building networks and like using some of your success to pass on to other people.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. That's the best ethics, and I always try and do what I can for anybody. Do we have like a time scale that you're hoping to start rolling these nests out on?
I'm hoping by Christmas, this coming Christmas. But it will mean
so
I'll have to work very hard. I'm hoping, but it will be like the next couple of months will be a lot of work before that gets going. But like this stage is the most complex stage in terms of like project management and managing the project, because it obviously it costs a lot of money. I have to source the materials for everything and organize the building work. It's been an eye opener. It's been interesting, you know, to and really exciting to manage a project on this scale, because it's something that I've never done before in terms of managing such a huge project, really.
Yeah. No, to be honest, it's something I wouldn't know where to do. Even though I've got my fingers in the building trade, I wouldn't know where to start with, like you say, screws and everything.
So I do a lot of research in general. And I do a ton of DIY. So like I'm currently refurbing my mum's house where I live, and refurbing the whole house basically. So like that's basically when I finish work, that's what I'm doing really. So I'm working on something else. I enjoy it. Like I'm not the sort of person that sits down and watches TV when I get a chance. Like I'm always on the go, and probably the only time where I get to settle down is probably in the evenings, really. So if I'm not exercising, I'm not doing DIY, I'm not cooking or cleaning, or doing my job, doing ants, like that's basically pretty much it, really. So I'm generally quite busy. I like to live an active life, you know.
Yeah, no, I think that's good, to be honest. I like keeping active myself. I'm always busy doing one thing or another. The only time I stop is when I sleep, really.
Yeah, that's the same for me, more or less. Yeah, but I wouldn't change it. Like I really enjoyed like running AntsRus and like it is a lot of work at times, but it's really enjoyable. Like having that control and having like being in touch with the community and like responding and helping people get into ants or there's a problem with their colony. What can they do to help? Like it's cool. It's really cool.
Yeah, I really love communicating with the community and new ant keepers and anyone struggling. I'm like, oh, I'll help. You know, what can I do? It's one of those passions, isn't it? You know, and we love helping the community. Sorry, I just dropped my pen.
Yeah, because without the ant community, where would we be, right? These are the people that give us a platform and put us in the position that we're in, really. And we have to give 100% to them.
Yeah, definitely. I was just reading the chat there, Stacey and Katrina. Katrina says it sounds like someone else we know, and Katrina, Stacey says I was thinking the same. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh,
he does. He does a lot of work. To be fair, yeah, you do.
No, thank you.
Like you do. That's why, like, I help you as well, because obviously you're great for the community. You help the community a lot, and part of me helping you is helping them as well. Which you do a lot of work. I only hear positive news about you anyway. Really.
I try.
Well, I mean, like, I don't know. Maybe you have enemies somewhere. And people, I don't know. But from the people that I talk to, it's usually all positive.
Yeah. No, I try and do my best for the community. I'm not here to do anything. You know, I'm not here to rip anyone off or screw anyone up. I just want to help everybody. Back, we have had a couple of questions. Another one here from Katie Newman. Can you get really ill if bitten by ants? And if so, which one?
Yeah, you can. I'll tell you an interesting story, personal one. Like Polyrachus dives, actually, I got my finger cut and it got briefly infected. Right. So on the thorax of the Polyrachus, I think I got it cut. It probably sprayed some acid in my finger, and maybe I had like a bit of a thorn in there from the thorax, and it did cause a bit of an infection, which I managed to sort out. But if you get stung by an ant, you can have an anaphylactic shock, and you can die. It's not common, but it tends to be common in areas where there's a lot of fire ants, Solenopsis invicta. So it's quite common in America, more so than other parts of the world in terms of that process. It's like being stung by a bee, right? If you're really allergic, you can potentially go into anaphylactic shock.
Yeah. I think that is pretty much the only time ants have killed people. I don't think I've ever read of ants being able to kill someone, you know.
Yeah, and like for example, like the Native Americans, they would sting themselves with ants to try and get them intoxicated and high, you know.
Yeah, which is quite a weird one. Have you seen the bullet ant ritual, which they do, where they put their hands in the blood?
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's really cool. It's really, really cool. And they dance around. Yeah. It's like the coming of age, becoming a man, you know?
Yes. I think they do it every few years, like you say, during that period of coming of age. But I wouldn't be able to do that. Like, again, I'd break down like a little girl. No problem saying that.
Yeah, probably would. I would probably be the same, to be honest. Yeah. But they probably have better interactions than what we have with an environment, and they're probably used to being stung by ants potentially. So if you're used to being stung, they could also potentially sting themselves over a period of time to build up immunity towards the sting, which will make it a lot less painful and a lot more tolerable to them.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
It's like being bitten by a snake. Say if you're being bitten by a poisonous snake, you can build up immunity to the poison if you do it in small doses, and potentially if you take a full bite, you can have full immunity to snake poison.
Yeah, they do actually do that in some countries. They get like baby snakes, I think it is, because their venom's less potent. which is quite interesting. One thing I have noticed about the venoms is every ant species has a different type of venom, and they can have some really interesting effects. I don't know. I haven't read them, but I've been reading some of the effects, and like you say, that you can hallucinate from them. Some of them cause nerve damage. Some of them make your eyes water really randomly. Going on to slightly different, there's a spider which will give you a 4 to 6 hour erection.
Wow. Okay. And what kind of rituals are used in?
Well, that's it. But it did make me wonder, like, what kind of use does that have in nature?
Who discovered that?
Well, yeah, that too. Oh dear, I've been bitten.
Technically, if that is the case, then it could be used as a heart medicine, actually, because it will increase your heart. It could help your heart, increasing your heart rate and blood flow.
Yeah. See, now I read into it, and I think it's something to do with it triggers rigor mortis in smaller prey, so it like knocks them freeze up and go solid, easy prey. But because we're so large, it obviously doesn't have the same effect.
That's a side effect, right? So it's a side effect of its intention. So like the poison will interact with various parts of cells, so for different cells, and so that's obviously just the side effect.
Yeah, really interesting though. Like
that's really interesting.
Yeah.
I guess the person that discovered that probably went really quiet, but apart from that,
and left the room quickly.
Yeah,
definitely. I'm just going to go back through because we've got questions coming through. What makes the ants really mad to the point where they will bite you? Lots of things will make ants really mad.
Yeah, like obviously if they feel threatened, right? If you're poking them, poking around in their nest space, in their environment, they would attack and naturally defend themselves, right? It's just because they're in a domestic setting, ants don't know that. They still think they're an environment which is in the wild, technically. So they'll basically try and survival mode, right?
Yeah. I'm going to say some are more aggressive as well. Some, like my Murano plus bicolor, you could put your hand in there and they'll completely avoid you. In fact, they'll go in their tunnels. You'd find it quite difficult to annoy them to the point that they'd attack you. Whereas something like my Diacama or my Polyrhacus dives, you just have to look at them. Look at them in the wrong way and they'll come flying at you.
With their formic acid.
Yeah, which is, again, I've debated this with a few people. Polyrhacus dives, to my knowledge, do not spray that acid. It's more of a lactating thing.
You think so?
It kind of leaks out of them. Yeah, would you agree with that?
They can quite curl up. They can curl up their abdomens and technically spray it, but it's probably not as common. But they can potentially. But obviously, some species are quite non-aggressive. Obviously, species that have like soldier casts that are generally bigger, exotic, like something like Diacama is quite an aggressive ant because it's hunting process, right? Ants that sting tend to be quite aggressive, right?
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. One thing I did read was Lasius niger are actually really, really aggressive, but we just don't know because they can't bite us.
Sometimes I've come across nests where they've swarmed me. I'm in the park or something like that, and they're all over me. They can actually bite us. I disagree. Between the fingers, they can bite. You can feel it. It probably doesn't feel that bad, but they can definitely give you a nip, especially for children, I would say.
Okay, that's interesting. I've never experienced a bite from them myself, but maybe I'm not getting.
Between the fingers, softer parts of the skin, they can bite, especially the bigger workers.
Yeah, and they do get quite large actually. Lasius niger, they always get thought of as quite a small ant. When they're in their larger stages, they are, quite considerable.
They are fairly big, it's quite interesting. I would say probably more in a domestic setup. if given access to larger amounts of food.
Yes.
Potentially ants could evolve to become bigger in a domestic setup.
Yeah. Now, one thing that I was reading about that experiment's not being done yet, but someone's basically doing the research to start doing an experiment, is whether increasing the oxygen supply would eat the ants over time, because obviously when prehistorically the oxygen levels in insects were a lot larger.
Yeah,
and they were thinking that it's doing 2 or 3
so basically if you give them access to oxygen, because everything's diffusion, right, in terms of breathing for ants. So if you increase the oxygen levels, the more diffusion that can take place. If you look at like places like South America in rainforests that have access to more oxygen naturally, you would find bigger insects which wouldn't exist in other parts of the world. So that's definitely the case. But also like in terms of like the climate right now, like back then oxygen levels were like 20%, 21%. They're a lot lower now. So to obviously you'll have to mimic that within a domestic setting. But yeah, you could probably get bigger insects. But in different parts of the world, there are naturally bigger insects, right?
Yeah.
Due to higher oxygen levels.
Yeah. See, I thought that would go be quite an interesting experiment. I will definitely be following it. See how
of course.
Works out.
I'm sure you'll be keeping your audience informed as well.
Of course I will. We've got some more questions here. What food do ants need to be given and how often?
So like ants, like humans, really, they need protein and carbohydrates and vitamins as well, you would say. So I would say probably feed ants every like 3 days, small colonies, and you can probably give them like a protein carbohydrate rotation, or you can do both together, which is beneficial to them because they need protein and carbs. You can't just feed one or the other because the brood won't grow, right? So you have the protein, like insect-based protein. You could also give like cooked foods like ham and chicken. I'm sure your Polyrachus, you've probably fed them a few variety of foods, right?
I've tried, but I haven't actually gone as ambitious with it as I was going to. I gave them prawn once and they ate prawn. And I gave them ham, but apart from that, I generally just give them bugs.
Okay, and how did they react to the ham?
Yeah, they ate the ham and they ate the prawn, but they didn't eat the prawn until it had like dried out.
Okay.
Yeah, which was a little bit weird. Like I was just about to take it out, sort of thing. Went to the tank to take it out, and they were there eating it all over it.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so it's they're a bit weird, a bit picky, I think. But I think they also have learned to know what foods to eat because it's not like they attack anything else in the tank.
Yeah, it seems like I saw watching a video earlier. Seen a few beetles in there and stuff like that. They've seemed to have adapted quite well to their habitat, and they'll probably more likely, if they can't get access to readily available food, will more likely start to eat sources within the nest space if they become desperate.
Yeah, I mean, I've always fed them so much, anyways. It's hard to tell what they're actually interested in because they're always eating.
Yeah, like also it's better to eat something that's dead rather than alive because you have to put the effort into taking the prey down, and you might incur losses within that process as well. Like ants will choose to maximize efficiency.
No, definitely. I mean, I only really give my diacama live food because that's kind of what they need. But apart from that, I always pre-kill everything, all the insects. So next question, moving on. What can you do to help yourself if you get bitten? If you're having an anaphylactic shock, you can have an EpiPen, but apart from
that, an EpiPen would be, or go to a hospital if you're having an anaphylactic shock. Really, you could probably try and just clean the area, maybe. just give it a bit of a clean, just hygienically clean, so potentially it doesn't get infected.
Yeah.
But this thing should go away in like 20-30 minutes. It should lessen, right? So
yeah, it's usually not too bad. I mean, I get stung probably every day at the moment, and you just get over it. It's not too bad as long as you're not allergic. We've got a few questions sort of covering the same thing here. So what ants can get along peacefully together? Are there some colonies that can live together in the same nest?
yeah, so I would say there's been quite a lot of research, or a bit of research, around like Pteronophorans inhabiting nests with like bigger species like Camponotus in the wild and being in close proximity. So you can probably keep like a Camponotus and a Pteronophorans colony together, and I would say it's successful potentially. And what would you say in regards to that?
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm literally doing that experiment at the moment. I've got a Camponotus and Pteronophorans acorn ants, and they share the same formicarium. Everything seems to be fine. They've interacted several times, and it seems that they just ignore each other. Their first meeting was really interesting. The Camponotus was there eating from a cotton wool ball, taking the sugars from it. And acorn ant came up sort of behind it, sort of touched it on the leg. And you just see the Camponotus run, like what was that? Oh my God, and ran away. Came back a few minutes later, had a look at each other, and that was that. Literally the most that they cared about each other. It's been quite interesting to see. Whereas my Murano plus bicolor, they're so defensive, right? They can live with some other colonies. It's been documented that they will live in the same formicarium because they're so defensive, and they play dead when they feel threatened and things like that. So I tried them with my Polyrhacus dives when we first built the tank, and for the first week or so it was fine. They would curl up, and when they curl up, play dead, they put the stick pointing upwards, so anything that tries to take a bite gets stung, and it deters them. That worked for about a week, and then the Polyrhacus dives realized that if they kind of flipped them over, then they could just carry them back to the nest.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, so at 2 o'clock in the morning one night, I was like, right, I'm getting them out. I got in here with my little spade, and it was a nightmare. But I actually managed to save the colony, the queen and everything, and they're going fine. But it was a bit of a nightmare. It's not something I would advise doing with most ants, to be honest. It's just
I think a Pteronophorans and a bigger species like Camponotus or another bigger species, maybe a bit less aggressive, a naturally less aggressive species would be a good fit.
Yeah, I think there is documented records, you could say, of multi-species sharing formicarium. I'm just trying to remember who it is who has the other massive multi-species formicarium. I can't remember. I keep thinking Denmark, but it's not Denmark. Nordic Ants, that's it.
Okay,
Nordic Ants has a really, but his tank's like 2 meters square or something crazy.
Huge. Oh yeah, it's huge.
Yeah. And I think he got particular ant colonies that don't grow massive, and he introduced them at sort of the smallest stage so that they're established enough to survive, but they're not overwhelming the population at that point, if you know what I mean. But it's been really interesting to see how they interact and get on. I don't think he's had many conflicts in it.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting when people introduce like they have, like what you've done is basically you have your own environment, right? Where different insects as well as ants interact, which is really cool. It's also good for like to observe behavior as well, like observe that behavior and how the ants interact with other insects and other living things. And I think I feel like a bit more people are doing it a bit more now, which is really cool, because like at the end of the day we're all like doing science technically, right? When we get an ant colony, we're observing their behavior. So it's science, really. That's live science right there.
Yeah. I don't think there is another. I might be wrong. I don't think anywhere else it's been documented how ants and vampire crabs react to each other. Might be wrong.
Probably not, actually, because the vampire crabs are fairly rare.
Yeah.
And you've how do they generally interact? Do the crabs hunt them? Do they?
They don't generally. The crabs will kind of creep up behind them and they'll get so close, but then they'll run away. I think they realise that the ants are a potential threat. But I have noticed that the crabs don't really hunt. They would much rather, like you said earlier, go for the easy meals of carcasses thrown in the pond and things like that. Since putting them in the tank, the Polyrhacus dives have always used the pond as their rubbish dump. So any dead ants, any leftover pupa cases, everything goes in there. And that's what the crabs live on. They eat all the leftovers, they're scavengers. And it's worked really well because they must be getting enough protein and vitamins and everything because they're producing babies.
Yeah. And when was the last time they had babies?
Oh, a few months back, because I think they're in their second or third stage of molting at the moment. They're growing quite substantially. I saw one out next to the largest of the crabs, one we call Mr. Crab, and he's still massive compared to it.
Yeah. Okay. Fair play. But that's good. That's good to hear because, like, generally, unless you're quite a dominant species within an environment, you would probably tend to scavenge for food, right? Because it's probably the safest strategy.
Yeah, no, definitely. And to be honest, they're not the alpha predator in here. The Polyrhacus dives are definitely. Really hot, dripping with sweat still. We've got some more questions. We've got several people asking to see some ants. I'll swap onto the tank in a minute. I've knocked over my tripod somehow, so I'll do that in a minute so that everyone can see some ants. In fact, I'll get the other tripod and I'll put the better camera on the ants so you can actually see them, because this one's going all sorts of places today. Right, so moving up. If ants die, do the other ants try and eat that dead ant?
Well, generally what I find is they do recycle them and give them to their brood, really. It's quite common, especially in smaller colonies, to give them to their brood, and they just break down the exoskeleton, really.
Yeah, I've noticed that with some species that they'll definitely eat the thorax, and sometimes the abdomen, but they don't always eat the whole body.
The head. Yeah, the head.
Yeah. Like sometimes they'll just legs left.
Yeah, like in the wild, like after a nuptial flight, ants will take the wings of the elates and they'll recycle them and they'll take them back to their nest.
And I believe they do eat the males as well, don't they?
Yeah, they would. Yeah, they would eat the males as well. And like it's a big feeding frenzy, nuptial flights for ants as well, because they'll attack the queens because potentially that could be potential competition for them within their environment. But they're quite at the same time very nutritious for each colony.
Yeah, they're full of all the good stuff. Like you say, do you think that? Sorry, going into that, would they attack their own queens?
Probably yes, because as soon as they leave the nests, they probably maybe their pheromones will start to become more independent. Also, they've been mating with several males, so that might obscure any previous pheromones as well. And technically, as soon as they leave within a period of time, that's competition right there. Unless it depends on the species, because some species they can allow them back into the nest after they've been mated, right? So.
Okay, yeah. See, I have heard of that before. Do you know what species do that?
Formica species. I think Sanguini will do it. Like Formica,
Okay, that's really
Formica
interesting.
rufra, they'll do it. Like Formica rufra will do it. The ones that have the really huge nests, right? So Formica species. There'll be other species that will do it. The multiple queen species, maybe Marmica rubra as well.
Yes, yeah, I
Like
can imagine my Karuba would do it.
Yeah, like other multi-queen species will probably accept that as well.
Right, if I do that one, no, hang on, if I just trying to put some ants on the screen, kind of, that would do for now. Yeah, that would do. Sorry, we are still here, Chris.
Yeah, that's fine. Go on.
We've got a question here. My daughter, who's 4, asked how long do ants live?
So the workers generally probably like months, a couple, maybe 3 months to 5 years, maybe 10 years in some species. The bigger the ant generally, so say like a Camponotus species, they generally live quite longer in terms of the workers because a lot of more resources have to be plowed in to making that worker. So they tend to have a longer life. Queens generally, they put about 25 to 35 years, which is a very long time, right?
It is. Some species do die at a faster rate, but they have a much faster production rate as well, I believe.
Yeah. Those generally the smaller species will die at a faster rate, and the queens, if you multiple queen colonies, maybe some species will only live like 5 to 10 years, maybe few years less than that, especially for multiple queen species.
Yeah, I think Monomorium, they die really fast, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, because they're just they're so invasive. They're so tiny, and they just produce their lates. They mate in the nest. A lot of the more invasive species, so they'll self-replicate anyway. So it's not a problem for them.
So I think that's, again, it's nature working away, isn't it? There's no
it's about the environment. It's about maximizing efficiency and evolution over time. Like this is a process that's been perfected over thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah. What is the rarest ant and most common ants, in your opinion?
It's very subjective, right? Because there's ants we haven't even discovered yet, right? So they're all probably up there. But ants that we have discovered, you're probably looking like things like bullet ants, things like Camponotus gigas, things like the Cataglyphus species with the silver hairs that I was talking about. They're very rare. They're found in the Sahara Desert, and they go for like over 1,000 pounds.
Wow.
They're very rare. Yeah, they're very rare. So yeah, like and in terms of common, it depends where you live, right? So whatever's native to you in the UK, it will be Lasius niger, which will be the most common species generally. But it depends where you live in the world, really.
Yeah, no, definitely. I've noticed Lasius are just pretty much everywhere, but in the UK, like you say, that's pretty much Lasius niger. You're going to find everywhere. They're the most common. Excuse me.
Like somewhere like Spain, a more common species is Mesobarbarus.
Yeah,
they're way more common.
Which I think would be really weird, if you know what I mean. Like, I'm used to walking about and seeing Lasius niger, and to like go to another country and I could potentially see Mesobarbarus walking about. I think it would blow my mind.
Yeah, it's actually quite cool because you'll see them carrying the seeds and their long seed trails and stuff like that, which is really cool.
Yeah, which brings us onto a question from my daughter. Actually, what type of ants do you think they were in Bug's life?
Oh, that is a very that is a very good question.
They must be harvesters because they're collecting seeds.
In seeds, yeah, there would be a harvester species. So technically, they would be based on American harvester ants, right? But they're blue, so it's very unusual. But it's Disney that creates Bugs Life, right? Is it Disney?
Yeah,
So
Disney, yeah.
so they've been
Pixar.
Disneyified, but I guess the color blue is less aggressive than say red, maybe.
Yeah.
So people would associate them with being more passive and being more friendly, right? And
That would make sense.
yeah, like are they locusts or crickets? They're a darker color, but the
Yeah.
ants are a lighter color, right? So you have that
Yeah.
contrast.
Yeah, because they like to do that light and dark to
Dark
show who's
stuff,
the goodie.
yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. That makes sense. I thought that was quite interesting when you come out with it. I was like, wow, they're not Nigers.
yeah, and it's and also as well, it's like, what is it? The color's a bit of a discrimination, isn't it? Because because like there's dark ants like Lasius niger that are not too bad, right?
Yeah. It's one thing. It really does my head in. It literally, I could go nuts at this. I see a post and it gets passed about, posted about on Facebook and whatnot, and it's I can't remember. It was like the black ants aren't aggressive at all or something, and it's only the red ones that you have to worry about. I was like, but what about Camponotus that bite you?
Yeah, like Harpagnophos venator as well. They're all black.
Yeah. I mean, it's
I see that. I think I've seen that occasionally. Yeah, and like also in like movies where they do ants in movies, like they say it's a certain species, but it's not. It's something totally different, or they say it's from a certain place, but it's not. It's from a different place.
Yeah, lots of misinformation out there.
Yeah.
Here's a question from Katie Newman. What's the main reason do you think people keep ants?
Well, I would say because they're social insects, I would say probably that's the most interesting part, because they work together to achieve their objectives. I think that in itself makes them very interesting. And to see them working together, to see them interacting in multiple numbers within the environment is pretty amazing, really. Like, obviously you'll have spiders that tend to be solitary, but in the contrast, the ants are basically the ground version of bees, really, and wasps, right?
Yeah, it's funny how they evolved from wasps, really, but they're still very wasp-like. When you look at the males, they look really wasp-like still.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. You already notice it with the more elates than the sterile workers, but it's such a like the whole evolution process, obviously amazing, and ants have been so successful in their environments.
Yeah, really successful for millions of years. I did a video a while back on how ants first started and how they came about and the first types of ants, and obviously, none of the original ants are still about, but we actually do still have some really ancient species that you can find and keep.
Yeah, like say something like Diacama rugosum.
Yeah.
They're quite an old ant in terms of the process of how they breed and their size, and they haven't changed substantially over time, right? So they look relatively prehistoric.
Yeah, they, like exactly that. They look prehistoric. Like, there's no better term for it, I don't think. Just the size, their traits, just everything about them.
The fact that they don't have an established queen. That is prehistoric in itself.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the reasons I'm dreading the longevity of my colony, because it's going to be almost impossible to introduce a male at the right time. But I'm hoping we'll get to that point where I can work it out. I don't know how I'll work it out, to be honest, but I think I'll notice a change in behaviors as the gamma gate dies and the females become more aggressive amongst themselves. I'm hoping.
Yeah, because I think it's very possible that they can actually self-fertilize within the actual environment, within the environment that they're in. Potentially, like, say you can get 2 gamma gates, they produce 2 males, and they can actually potentially mate with each other, and they choose the most successful. Generally, the colonies, I think what I've read is they bud, So they'll grow to a certain size, then they'll split and then
Okay.
establish another colony from the literature I've read.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me, to be honest, because I always know that they won't grow much larger than 100 workers, but I'd say I've got more than 100 in here now. The colonies definitely grown over the last couple of months, and I have upped their feeding a little bit. I'm now feeding them 4 worms every few days instead of 2.
Okay, yeah.
And like I've noticed, there's definitely more workers coming out for the more food. So I think they're getting to a large size, but I don't think they'll get much larger now. I've had so many males out of them this year; it's been almost scary.
Really?
Yeah. Well, there's no lid on the tank either, so I kind of just have to keep an eye on it.
Yeah. So obviously you use like a slip resistant material, right? So to prevent them from escaping. Yeah. That's quite interesting. So maybe that will be like their nuptial flight process. Maybe it will be part of that by producing that higher level of males.
Yeah, maybe.
And maybe they'll get, like, say, gamma gates will come through, the males will come through, they'll mate, and they'll bud off potentially. But obviously, it's something we still need a lot more time to look into it.
Yeah. Well, that's what it's all about. Like you said earlier, is research and making these discoveries, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and sharing our knowledge as a community with everyone, right? It's about sharing that knowledge as well and passing it on.
Definitely, and that's something I mentioned to you earlier. I've been given the opportunity to go and do like a workshop program, seminar sort of thing with a youth club, where I can talk about the ants, I can talk about bioactive terrariums and stuff. We're going to make a little jar terrarium that all the kids can take home. It's going to be really awesome. But I think, like you say, that sharing my knowledge and what I've learned is like, I can't wait. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, like I think it's cool. Like, the more people know about nature and the environment, the more likely they are to protect it, and the more likely they are to actually invest in saving it, really, because that's where it comes down to. At the end of the day, within the next 20 years, it's going to be that kind of decision-making process. And like I hope, like, being part of AntsRus and giving people ants will make them appreciate their environment more and help save it.
Yeah, I think people are definitely getting more, what's the word? Eco-friendly? Not eco-friendly, but eco-aware.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing. It definitely is good for the hobby.
Yeah, and the environment, right? You're more likely to protect a colony of ants, because ants will struggle as well. Maybe they won't struggle as fast as other species, but obviously the whole process of life is a cycle, and they interact with other species. And maybe if they're in decline, it will affect the ants and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, they all bounce off each other. If they run out of feeder insects, that'll be the end of ants. Which actually leads us on to another question from Stacy. What insects do you personally keep or farm as feeders?
Very good question. Personally, I keep mealworms. So, like, I've got a trick I'll share with you. So if you keep mealworms in the fridge, they won't turn into beetles, or the process is very delayed. So I've not had a mealworm turn into a beetle. I usually get the 20 to 30 millimeter size, and I usually keep them for months and months, and they don't turn into beetles, so I can keep them for that long.
No, fair play. Do you keep them in your normal fridge, or do you have to have a separate fridge?
I keep them in my normal fridge.
Yeah. So do I, but I had to convince the wife.
Yeah. Same problem with my mom. So, but they're fine. They're in the container. They're all good. There's plenty of food in there, because obviously they would interact in quite dry environments, because the fridge is quite humid. There's a lot of moisture that they can get from there.
Yeah, no. What do I keep? Quite a lot. I breed Dubia Roaches. I've got a colony of over 1,000 just to my side at the moment. I also breed Mario worms, the slightly larger mealworms. I'm in the fridge unless I freeze them, just because I I'm never going to need as many as I'm producing at the moment.
Yeah, so like obviously you don't want them all to turn into tons of beetles. And what colony size did you start off with?
Well, believe it or not, I actually started with a couple of beetles out of this tank. Because there's beetles in the tank, they lay their eggs, and there is Mario worms living in the soil all the time. So I literally, when there's like 10 beetles or so, I'll bring the numbers back down to 6, because I like there to be about 6 beetles in here. Not too many, because otherwise they'll start to compete for food and things.
Yeah, and where do you put the beetles? Where do you place them?
So I've got a big, I want to call it a big Tupperware box, but it's like a massive storage box container that I cut holes in, and it's a big bioactive setup. And I thought that's kind of the best way for me to do it, because I wanted to move away from the egg crate sort of way.
Yeah.
Because it's just too much maintenance for me, if you know what I mean, having to change egg crates and things like that. So it's literally just a massive container, bioactive, basically the same as you're seeing here. But once they've laid their eggs, and I've got a fair few worms that I can see from looking at the bottom of it, I will remove the beetles again into another container, allow the worms to grow a bit before sieving them out of the substrate and starting the whole process again. But I've ended up with I've probably got about 100 or 200 beetles.
Wow.
Yeah, it's quite a few.
And they've all, I guess you've got to set your own feeder shop up for that.
Potentially. I've been quite lucky, actually. I've got a friend with what's he got? He's got a bearded dragon and a few things like that. So I've said to them, if they want beetles, they're happy. Take some beetles, it's not an issue. And then what else? I'm sure I keep other things for.
What other feeder foods?
Yeah, I can't think. I'm sure I do. Sometimes I do flies, like there's fruit flies.
Flies? How was that?
I got so fed up with, like, I don't know, not using them fast enough. Like I would use them, and then I would try and like use something else, and then I would get like, I'd go back to the pot and I'd have so many fruit flies that I wouldn't be able to use them. So I'd end up freezing them, and I don't know. I've moved away from fruit flies.
Yeah, because the growth period's quite a small period of time.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and for the longevity of it, like I like to buy I buy wax worms in to like subsidize what I grow here, and I buy that in like a month stock at a time. So trying to do that with fruit flies, and so it just become more difficult than it was worth. Although I will be getting fruit flies in again just to mix it up. I won't be looking to cultivate.
And how would you say how much like feeding your colonies cost you a month, for example?
Wow, that can be debatable. It depends if my missus is listening or not.
Okay. All right.
No, feeding's not too bad because, like I say, you grow a lot of the foods myself.
Yeah. So how much would you say?
Well, the tank in front of me, the multi-species tank, tonight has had 40 wax worms in one hit. Wow. Yeah. So if you went into something like Pets at Home, that's probably 2 or 3 tubs.
Wow.
In just one feeding. And that's just for the Polyrachus dives, not the rest of the tank.
And how long would that last, the poly dives?
I do that twice a week.
Okay.
So they can go through 100 worms in a week themselves very easily. And then with the rest of the colony,
what would you estimate the colony size to be?
At the moment, about 3,000 workers, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, it's quite a substantial colony, but it's not massive yet. It's got a lot more growing to go.
A lot more worms as well.
Yeah. I mean, I do go back onto roaches and things occasionally, but the worms are just so easy to feed. And I always find pretty much every colony I've had loves wax worms, I expect because they're soft and juicy rather than having to get through an exoskeleton. And,
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
yeah, it
They're not
really,
too keen on things like beetles and stuff like that.
yeah, that's it. Especially the smaller colonies. I had Lasius niger colony last year, which would make a whole waxworm disappear overnight.
Wow.
Yeah, I literally, I'd go to take the remains out, thinking, you know, there'd be something. Literally nothing left.
And how big was the colony?
Now that one, it's hard to say because I can't really see inside the nest. It's in the T-shaped form of carrion, but it's got to be a good few hundred workers now.
Okay, wow.
But it was in its first year last year, so it was using that as its developing stage.
It's really interesting. And how's your daughter has a colony? How's that colony going?
Yeah, that's actually the colony I'm talking about.
Yeah,
they're doing really well, but they've just started to have a big die-off, and I cannot put my fingers on why. There's probably 20 or 30 dead workers in the outworld. It might be a generation.
Yeah, maybe a generation has died off.
Yeah, it would make sense because I haven't until this point. I haven't seen an actual amount of them coming out dead. If you know what I mean, I've seen one or two, but I haven't actually seen like a generation die off until about now. So it would make sense, but it's quite scary to see at the same time because it's like going from nothing dying to
of course.
Wow, what's just happened? But I've gone through everything. I've cleaned everything, changed the water. You know, done everything I can do, and I think they're absolutely fine. They're still eating, still doing their normal things, but they have started avoiding the whole outworld section where all the dead bodies are, which is quite odd.
Wow. Like generally with colonies, a lot of people say to me, my colony, there's workers dying and stuff. Like for me, like I'll indicate as long as there's brood within the colony, you would be right. If they're laying eggs, they're producing brood, the colony will be fine. Usually, like once you get new colonies, there will be like a process of die-off until the brood comes through and the cycle of growth can start, and then you'll reach the exponential growth. But generally, as long as there's brood, the queen's laying eggs, looks healthy, the cycle will start and the exponential growth can be reached. Seems like Stacy's colony loved the Headless Darkling Beetle.
Okay.
Which is quite interesting.
Yeah. See, the polyrackers have found a Darkling Beetle dead before, and they tore it to pieces.
Did they? Wow.
Yeah, but when they see them alive, they're not that bothered unless they're trying to eat their food.
Yeah, it's a lot of effort to take a live one down, I guess.
Yeah, I expect it is actually more than we think.
Yeah, and because they're quite thickly armored, right? So.
Yeah. We've got actually a really good question here from Katie Newman again. Thank you, Katie, for throwing all these questions in. It's been really helpful. But this is actually a question I get asked a lot, and it's really funny because as a child, right, I used to refer to it as Flying Ant Day, and no one knows what these ants were, but they were flying ants. Do you want to explain what the flying ants are, Chris?
Yeah, so it's the day of love, the day of romance, right? It's like the Valentine's Day for ants. So it will be it's nuptial flights. So it's where the ants in large numbers. It's heavily environmentally dependent process. It's dependent on the wind. It's dependent on the weather. Usually it's quite humid, probably about 80% or more humidity. The wind is not very strong. It's usually previously before a storm for the UK, and they come out in large numbers during the summertime, and they mate in the air, and the males and the females will mate with many males, and the males would eventually die off within like 3 to 5 days or less after they've mated, and that's the nuptial flight process, the reproduction of ants.
Yeah, no, it's a really exciting time for ant keepers, and like I say, if you're not into the hobby and if you don't know, that's just like, what are these weird ants?
Yeah, what are these annoying ants? Or
in
the newspaper, it's like it's all the same. It's Flying Ant Day, and all these, like, generally the media likes to make insects to be like these crazy, dangerous creatures that make our lives difficult when technically they've been here longer than us, which is, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. We should be more accommodating for our insects.
Yeah, and also, like, these flights are so big, they're seen on weather maps because there's millions and millions of them.
I remember a couple of years back they disrupted aeroplanes as well.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it was really extreme. I think it was the year we were all in lockdown, and it was so insane. They had to divert planes and things around them.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But I mean, they were doing it before we were flying planes, so
well, yeah.
So
that's
who's in the wrong? Us or them?
Wow, us really. We should. I've always said people shouldn't fly. I've never been on an aeroplane, believe it or not, and I've always said if I'm getting in on one, I want to fly it myself, mainly because I just don't know if I can trust someone else with my life.
What, being on a plane?
Yeah.
You've never flown on a plane? Really?
Never. Been on a boat.
Yeah, I think first time I went on a plane, I was probably 15.
Wow.
I went to the States, America. It was nice. Yeah, but it's cool. They're perfectly safe. Crashes are very, very rare. Very rare.
Yeah. No, I know that, but it's one of those things, isn't it? It's always on the back of your
Snakes
mind.
on a plane movie, or it's just the most likely you are to die is takeoff and landing. So as long as you take off, okay, then for the most of the flight until you land, you're pretty safe.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I'm sure I will one day, but
you can't. You got to face your fears, right? You got to put yourself out there.
Yeah, I always say that. Always got to face your fears.
Yeah, you have to. That's life. You got to live outside your comfort zone. You're only really living when you're outside your comfort zone.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's very good. Has anyone got any last questions for us before we end the interview? If you do, please chuck them in now.
Well, I think interesting what the Ant Warrior said. I can't wait to find some scooping an ant up into a test tube. It must be so rare to find someone else interested in the hobby.
Yeah.
I would say within groups of friends and locally within people, I would say it is rare because it is quite a niche hobby. And fortunately we have technology, which is amazing, that we can all communicate together, join various groups, watch various YouTubers such as Tom, and do a lot of research and read online about them. And so we feel like we're not so alone and weird.
Yeah. See, that's it. Like when I'm down the gym, it's a whole nother world. If I start talking about ants, they give me some weird looks. But when I'm like on my Discord and stuff, it's amazing. I can chat to all you ant keepers, and I'm waiting for the day I bump into another ant keeper. That, in fact, saying that, I live on Portland. Portland's attached to Weymouth. I had a message from someone in Weymouth saying, "Hey, we saw your channel. We keep ants as well." And I was like, "Oh my god!"
Well, that's cool. That's cool. To be fair. Like I do send ants locally to where I live. Like I do get customers that live relatively local within the same sort of area. So but it's usually for children, I guess, for their children. You know, it seems like Stacey T has had quite a load of flights, so she can give you some prep talk before you start flying.
Maybe. Maybe. But believe it or not, my wife can actually fly a glider.
Can she? Wow, that's really
she
cool.
did like all the training and stuff, but I don't know if I'd get in the glider with her.
Do you not trust your wife, or do you not trust the glider?
Wow. No, it's the technology.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, to be fair, I'm a bit scared of heights personally, so I'm not too keen on heights.
I'm not scared of heights because I've climbed Ben Nevis, Scarfell Pike, and Snowdonia, but only Ben Nevis we actually needed ropes for. But I'm not scared of heights, but I'm sensible. If that's the right, you know what I mean.
Okay,
I like
you
to
don't
have
play
some
it. You
ropes.
don't play it too dangerously.
Yeah, I'm not going to go stand on the edge of a cliff. I'll stand like 10 meters back and look at the nice view, you know.
Yeah. I've a lot of trekking trips that I've been on. Like we've got fairly high, but not high as Snowdonia or Ben Nevis. Ants UK is asking, will AntsRus be at the exhibition show? Yeah, I will be. I will be at the exhibition show. Yeah,
it's going to be absolutely awesome.
I'm really looking forward to it. I think it will be an amazing time, and it's a chance to people to meet each other. Right, that's the main goal. Right, meet in person, talk to the vendors, and talk to people that YouTubers and people that do sell different products like different insects, different species, and different types of reptiles or whatever else is there. And it's a chance for the community to come together in person.
Yeah. I like you say, it's going to be great meeting everyone and actually getting the community together. I've planned some really cool exhibits as well. So it's like there's going to be stuff going on all day. Even if you turn up without a penny in your pocket, like there's going to be things for you to do. You don't have to just buy stuff.
Yeah. It's not really about that. It's about actually coming together, looking at seeing the talks, talking to the vendors, talking to each other. Like for me, like I will be having some ants there, but I'm looking forward to meeting everyone mostly in the talks.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to our speakers, all of them so far, without going into too much detail of what's been mentioned. It's going to be mind blowing with like information and just, you know what I mean, really interesting stuff.
Yeah, and it's about like creating the memories, you know, and feeling part of the community in real time.
Yeah, which I absolutely love. I think that's what it's all about. I'm just going to say you can get tickets for the show on my website. I think I've posted. Yeah, I did put the link on the screen now.
Is the link in the description? Is it going to be on the description on this post?
I can make it so, yes.
Yeah, that would be a good idea.
If it's not already. I don't. It will be.
Yeah, after the stream ends, you'll put it on now.
It will be by the second this stream ends. I'm just making sure I've got through all the questions. I have seen ants carry leaves. What do they do with them? They turn them into fungus, don't they, Chris?
Yeah, so they'll cut them up. They'll stick them on the pre-existing fungus. When a leaf cutter colony actually founds, the queen would use her own fecal matter to actually grow the fungus. And then once the workers start coming, they'll start cutting leaves, and the leaves will be placed onto the fungus, and the fungus will start to consume the leaves, and it will grow the fungus.
Now that's interesting. I didn't know that they use their fecal matter.
Yeah. The first queens will take the original fungus from the nest, put it in their mouths, and they'll start growing the fungus from their fecal matter. Yeah.
Wow. I suppose it makes sense because you've got to have something to start that molding process.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't realize it was made from that. Really interesting. Yeah, everyone else is saying that's cool and interesting. Brilliant. Well, I think we've got through all the questions.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, okay. Cool.
Brilliant. So yeah, thank you very much for coming on with us tonight.
Yeah, like it's always a pleasure. I really enjoy it, to be honest, and I'm happy to be here.
No, it's been brilliant. You're always welcome to come back. We love speaking to you because you're so passionate about the hobby. It shows in the way you talk. You know, it's brilliant.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll be back. Yeah, like Stacey's right. We learn something new every day. Like we're exchanging information and we're both learning from each other, right? And the audience is also learning at the same time.
Definitely. Right. Well, I'm gonna let you go on then, Chris. And
I got to work tonight. Funnily enough, I got loads of orders that I got to send international. So like I'm working later tonight, so I'll be working probably till like 1 o'clock. I don't know.
Yeah.
but that's life. But
that's normal for us, isn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, I'll leave you guys to it, and yeah, thank you so much for hosting me. And I'm sure I'll be back to keep you guys updated on the project as well, and see how we're going and how everyone's doing.
Definitely. Well, we'll love to have you back.
Awesome. So yeah, that's me out. See you later, guys. Stacey, Katie, Ants UK, Dan Warrior, Judith, everyone, take care. See ya.
Thanks, Chris. See you later, buddy. Right, I am just moving cameras 2 seconds, and right, no one. Yeah, right. I won't move camera. Right, yeah. So interviews. I do the chat show every Wednesday and Sunday. This is for everyone new in the chat. I do the chat show every Wednesday and Sunday. I do an interview pretty much every show. And then after the interview, we now go on to the chat show side of things, where I talk crap for however long. We play a few games. We have some duck races. We have a little bit of fun now. The serious part's done as such. And so you're welcome to stay. Welcome to have some fun with us. I did have a game planned, and the game's just it's not happening. Like, it's just falling apart. So we could do a quiz. If anyone would like a quiz again, I'm more than happy to be quiz master, Ants on the Rock again. That was good fun the last couple of times. But it was a real shame. I had a great game. It was a spot the difference, believe it or not. And there was ant stuff everywhere. But my computer will not show it because it's in the wrong type of format or something. And it won't let me change the format. And yeah, that was annoying. But we can do a quiz, and I've got a few updates and whatnot. But I'm going to have to change the camera because we are currently, that's the phone camera, and it is now on 4% battery. So 2 seconds. We move that, and we move it like that. And then I do that one, and turn to there. Right, cool. We are back on. I don't know who got to listen to it, who got to see it, but this, or a little bit earlier anyways, in the pre-show feeding, I have been given the privilege to play some music sent to me by a very good friend of mine and a fan of the channel. So if you want to check out his music, I might put it on again at the end of the stream, but you're more than welcome to go back to the pre-show feeding when it uploads to YouTube or whatever and watch that. It was an all right song, good music. I enjoyed it. Let me know if you enjoyed it. There is a possibility that I might broaden my horizons a little bit. So we might have, no, don't get me wrong, we'd still do the Ant interview first, but then after the Ant interview, when we're doing like the chat show, whatever, we might have a musician come on and play us a song. I don't know, talk about his upcoming album and stuff, because it's really interesting, and he's a good mate of mine, and he loves the channel, loves his ants. You know, I like to help people which do good ant stuff. You know what I mean. God, I'm just chatting rubbish, aren't I? But yeah, so it might happen. We might end up with musicians on for the later part of the show. We might even end up with a couple of actors, because I know someone who's an actor and he's had some really cool parts lately, and I was talking about him coming on to share some of his experiences with you as well. But that's not going to take away from the ant invert reptile based interviews at the start of the show, because we know that's the main reason we all sign in. But without further ado, should we have a duck race? Who's waiting for a duck race? Now, if you haven't been here before, we have duck races. They're not real, there's no prize for it. It's just a bit of fun. So we've currently got 7 people in the chat. So we're going to have 7 ducks. All you need to do, throw out a number, just say a number. First comes, first serves on the numbers. We're going to have a 2-minute duck race, just for fun. And there are the ducks. Bring on the ducks. If I do that, that would. Okay, right. Warrior has to abandon his go-to number. Oh, okay, yeah, I get ya. Right. What ducks do we have? We have Princess Duck. We haven't seen Princess Duck in a long, long time. She likes to dress up. She doesn't do much else. Princess Duck. Plain Duck. Facebook. That duck's trying to copy me wearing a hat like that. We got Viking Duck, Vampire Duck, Plain Duck, and Purple Star Duck. Now, I don't know who's going to win. It's completely random. But I'm going to put my bet on number 6. I don't know who's got number 6. I haven't looked at the numbers, but I'm saying number 6. Right, ready, steady, off we go. Number 6 is actually doing really well. Like, you'd think that I had fixed it somehow. Well, I haven't. Katrina, how many ants have you got to feed these days? Still here, been in front room feeding maggots to my colonies. How many colonies have you got? The other day, I did a full feed on all the colonies that I have to sell, all my own colonies, every single colony. It took quite a long time, like hours and hours I was there feeding, mainly because I've got hundreds of ants in test tubes, you know. So that was a bit. Well, here we go. Number 1. Well done, number 1. Number 1. But I hate saying it like that. 1, 1, 1, 1. It's like the dove dove under the bush. Spelled completely the same, different word. Well done. I have got some awesome stuff to tell you all. So if you're still here, you're going to hear about it before anybody else. First things first. Right. So here we go. I opened a new pack of envelopes today because I've been selling some ants left, right, and centre, you know. So I've opened a new pack of envelopes today, and in this pack of envelopes, there's 20 envelopes. I got one of my daughters to put 3 coupons in random envelopes. So these coupons are 3 tickets to the exhibition. So somewhere in the next 20 orders, 3 people are going to win some 3 tickets to the exhibition. I thought that was pretty cool. It's like a Willy Wonka golden ticket sort of thing, but not quite. what else? I have got several things I was going to tell you about, but I'm not going to tell you about that one. Thank you. I thought it would be a good idea, you know. Oh, and another thing also, which is very community based, I am planning an interview, right? Now, this interview isn't going to be live because of the nature of it. Basically, the guy's Spanish, doesn't speak a word of English. So I'm having to do the whole interview in Spanish. So we're going to then write it into a transcript that I can then read to you. But is there any questions that you have about an ant's anatomy? Inside, outside, like this, without saying who he is or too much about it, he's really interesting and he's studying the biology of ants and their anatomy, basically. And I thought, wow, that's so interesting, and it is quite different to what we usually have. And I've got a great range of questions for him. But because it's not live, there won't be a chance for the community to ask questions. So if you've got anything, just let me know and I'll make sure I do ask it. I'm putting the date back so that we've got lots of time to make sure I get every single question, because it's going to be a one-off. I'm never going to have the chance to interview him again, I doubt. And I want to get it right. Yeah, Katrina, you possibly do know who it is. That he's quite well known actually in the anting community on quite a few groups, and his posts are really amazing. Like the detail in them is just phenomenal. So I thought, you know, I'd love to get him on, but he does only speak Spanish. So it's not the easiest, we'll say, but I'm translating my questions through to Spanish so that he can answer it, and then I'll do that. Don't worry, I'll sort it, and it will be amazing. Ant Warrior, how does a queen produce so many eggs? Do you mean a queen in general? How does a queen produce so many eggs? It's much like a chicken. You keep feeding them, it uses it and turns it into eggs. Much like a woman, to be honest. You got to keep feeding them so that baby develops, you know. Yeah, it's the same process. The more food that can go through the ant's body as such, the more they've got to put into eggs. But I will say that doesn't work when the ant colonies are a much smaller, at a much smaller size. Sorry, Katrina made me laugh there. I'm always careful. I've got a wife upstairs. She'd beat me. She wouldn't beat me. She's a lovely person. But you'll get to meet her at the exhibition, I expect. She's going to be there because I'm going to have her helping me and whatnot. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Yeah, here's Mrs. Ants on a rock. And she'll probably run and hide because she's not used to anyone seeing her. How big does a gaster grow? Like how many times its size for last year's end? Like from empty to full, it expands. Right, okay. Now this is a hard one. Quick hide the bruises. Yeah, I know, Ant Warrior. I mean, that's why I always wear a hoodie and stuff. No, I don't. I'm normally topless, to be fair, but we won't go into that. Right, so a gaster, believe it or not, can get so big it pops. If they can keep producing eggs and not lay them, it's really weird and very annoying. But their gaster can pop. I can't tell you what sort of size ideally it could get to before it pops. One thing I always try and avoid is letting the gaster get too big because of that. As long as you can see that the gaster is sort of plump, then you know there's eggs in there. You know what I mean? I don't think that, like I said earlier, overfeeding a colony in small stage can be really detrimental to them. And I think yeah, it's the same thing basically. If the queen's if she's overeating and not laying because she's stressed, but she's still eating, then yeah. Question for that guest. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's really cool. I'll ask them. I'll write that down now. But it's a hard one, definitely for me to answer. I couldn't tell you. He probably can because of the anatomy. How big does a gaster grow? Okay, yeah. See, it's really interesting, the internal structure of like the gaster and things like that. Ants are really interesting anyways because they've got their exoskeleton and all of that. Sorry, I just nearly yawned. Yeah, because they've got their exoskeleton and not many organs and stuff, they're really interesting to actually see what's going on the inside. I think that about most things anyways. I thought that about the human body. Anything's interesting to actually see the mechanical side of things. Saying that, like, I one of the few programs that I do enjoy watching is it's called How It's Made or How It's Done, and they literally just show you like the factory process of making things. I love that because you get to see the mechanical workings of things. My missus finds it so boring. And is the skin stretching? Okay, that's, yeah. I think it is stretching, and that's why it pops. How can the body support so much weight? That's a good one. Yeah, because ants are super strong. I would love, yeah, how it's made. There you go, Ant Warrior. You're on it. You know it. Yeah, I would love to know how they get so strong. Maybe I could replicate it when I'm at the gym and like outlift everybody. I don't know. They take the mickey out of me at the gym. They're like, go on, use your ant strength. I'm like, screw you guys. Screw you. That's what it is. It's all good fun and banter. You have an antibody. The problem is I don't have many antibodies. That's why I'm always getting ill. Part of my condition actually is I've got almost no immune system. Well, I suppose I'll come out with another little announcement that I've been saving for you. I've probably told you as well. My Formica colony, obviously I'm selling Formica on my website. I have 2 different species of Formica, including Ruthobarbarus, which are quite rare in the UK. I've decided to keep a colony for myself. So they're doing really well. I'm going to be releasing a video on them real soon as well. Doing very well, very active colony. Even though they've only got like 5, maybe 10 workers, I haven't looked in lately because obviously it's wrapped up and whatnot. But they're coming out into the outworld. They're really active. They're feeding regularly. And to be honest, they've become one of my favorite colonies to watch. I know I always say it's the one I'm doing stuff with at the time, but they are so inquisitive, active, quite aggressive when it's feeding time, really great ants to watch. So if you haven't got Formica, it might be worth looking into them. They're not that hard to keep, they are native to the UK, most of them. The ones I have are anyways, and they'll be completely fine without any extra heating or anything like that. But they're just really great ants, if you know what I mean. So if you're if you're fed up of Lasius niger and those sorts of things, and you want to go into something not quite exotic but heading that way, I think Formica's a really good way to go. They remind me a lot of the Polyrhacus dives. but not quite to the same extent of needing heat and things like that. They're like an easier version of Polyrhacus, which like I said, I've really enjoyed them more than I thought I would. I've always wanted a colony of Formica, but it always kind of put me off the fact that they can gas themselves. So what I've been doing is I've got an alarm on my phone. Every 2 days, I take the lid off for a little bit. Obviously, reapply the barriers when needed, but I just let the colony air out, and that's because they can gas themselves with the formic acid spray. That would be a shame, but yeah, I do like them. I really like them. I'd love to do a natural setup for them, but because of the size the colonies can grow and the size of the nests can grow, it's not really doable. So it's acrylic for them. Acrylic or plastic or whatever. It's one of those ones. But yeah, like I said, I was really surprised by how much I've enjoyed keeping them. It's quite funny, they're right next to my Murano Plus bicolor, and the Murano Plus literally do nothing. Like, you can sit there watching them and they basically do nothing all day. They might, like, they eat, they drink, they dig, but they just do nothing. Not in the same way that the Formica are just constantly running around looking for things. They bring eggs out into the outworld, stick it in the corner for about half an hour and then take it back. I think that's just like drying it out, maybe. Maybe it's slightly too humid within the test tube for them. Ant Warrior, I think my next species will either be a Fedoni pallid, that one, colony, or a Solenopsis fuga. I think I've got one, maybe two Solenopsis fuga left. Fugax, Fugay, that one. I think I've got one or two of them left. They've been flying out lately. I can't explain it. Maybe because we've been talking about them more on the stream. But yeah, they've flown out over the last week. I think I've sold 7 colonies of Fugax. I have an ant nest question idea, but I'll message you tomorrow about it instead of on here. Don't be surprised. Yeah, no problem at all, Stacey. You know me. I'm there whenever you need me. Ping me a message. Happy to help. Or chat shit if you don't need help. Yeah, Ant Warrior, I felt the same. It's gone really well over the last week or so. Although I don't mind saying it on stream, I had to update my security on my website and stuff because I have had someone try and hack into it over this week. So I quickly did some maintenance and upgraded the security, and I found out the IP address of who tried to hack me and things like that. So it's all being dealt with, but it's just one of those things. Pain in the backside. Right, just looking around. We haven't done the quiz yet. Should we have the quiz in a minute? Yeah, Ant Warrior drama, like it's one of those things. Believe it or not, I won't go too much into it, but it's just there's someone trying to hack me. To be honest, it wouldn't surprise me if it's the same person that set up that other website, but I can't obviously put the two fingers together at the moment. But yeah, there's always drama in the ant world. To be honest, I try and stay out of the dramas as much as possible for several reasons. One, I'm an adult and I don't like drama anymore. I've had enough of that throughout my teenage years. I'm married. I've had enough drama. 2, I'm trying to do a picnic table chat show where I get lots of different people on. So falling out with people or getting involved in drama just isn't going to help with what I'm trying to achieve. And 3, the exhibition, exactly the same thing. Like if I was to start getting involved in people's dramas, then the exhibition would be a very hard event to put on. I just try and stay out of it, but I have noticed that there's a lot of drama in that world. It's always been like this. It's like this in almost every hobby. It's just the way it is. Ant Warrior, I'm not even gonna. I'm afraid I'm gonna not ignore it, but I'm not gonna answer your question because I don't even want to publicize the other website because it's just a load of shit, to be honest. Excuse my language, but it is. I would avoid it like the plague. It's probably if it ever does make a sell, I expect it's a scam. There's no contact information or anything. It's, you know what I mean. It just looks dodgy. Right, so I'm not that concerned about that other website. I don't think it's going to be an issue. Not worth. Good question. Right, where is my... Right, so I got the phone charger here after I changed the doodad. But I didn't even put my phone on charge. It's on 1% now. Well done, me. Well done, me. Right, I'm just bringing up a quiz. Do we want a quick quiz or not? If you would like a quiz, I'm more than happy to do a quiz before we call it a night. Right. Here is the first question. And this is a hard one. If anyone gets this, you've got my instant respect. Well done. How many breeds of elephant are there? I repeat, how many breeds of elephant are there? That's quite a hard one. I wouldn't have a clue, but it's written in front of me. Hubble says 4, Katrina says 3, Aunt Roria says 2, Stacy says 7. I'm going to blow it apart. Katrina was right, actually. It was 3. There is the African elephant, the Asian elephant, and the forest elephant. Only 3 recognized species of elephant. I watched a funny one earlier. I'm gonna. What was it? I watched the funny video. It was name a part of the body that begins with T, and the guy instantly just come out with the best answer ever. And was like, yeah, fair enough. Ant Warrior. They live out in like the Indian forests and stuff like that. They're quite small, not quite dwarf elephant size, but yeah, they are quite small. Tibia, all right, yeah, you got us there, Katrina. Well done. He came out with titties, but they did it on a family TV show and everything. It was brilliant. Did not see a problem with it at all. Right. Oh dear. That I don't know if anyone's going to get this one. What is Shakespeare's shortest play? That's what the hubby said. Brilliant. Yeah. 12 nights? No, it's not. It's got exactly 14,369 words, which isn't much. Not much at all. It's The Comedy of Errors by William Shakespeare, believe it or not. Okay, here's a good one. What is Cher's real name? Ant Warrior, if you haven't heard of Cher, she's like this old school musician. She basically hasn't changed in 50 years or something. She still looks the same now. Does anyone know Cher's real name? That's a hard one. She did some amazing songs. Back when I was in college, I had to play Bang Bang, one of her songs, or one that she covered anyways. And yeah, brilliant performance. The energy behind it was really good. Yeah, Life After Love, that's a great song. Yeah, lots of her songs did really. I mean, she's amazingly famous, isn't she? Amazingly famous. It's Sherilyn Sarkinson. She's the woman at the end of Mamma Mia. I don't think I've ever seen Mamma Mia. Oh no, I saw Mamma Mia in the cinema when it came out with my girlfriend at the time, but I fell asleep. It was not quite my cup of tea, we could say. Although I am quite a singing and dancing person, not so much back then. In fact, believe it or not, a few years back, it would have been very hard to get me to do a video or anything like that. Yeah, well done, Katrina. Okay. What is the longest river in the UK? And if you don't live in the UK, I'm sorry. Google, yeah, fair enough. It's not the Mersey. It's not the Thames. And it's definitely not the River Wey either. It is the River Severn. Severn? Yeah, Severn. Although it's spelled weird. Okay, few more questions, There was one here. Okay, this is a good one, and anyone that's seen Waterboy, the film Waterboy, probably go get this straight away. At what part of the human body would you find the medulla oblongata? I know I pronounced that right, even with my bad talking. Medulla oblongata. Yeah, well done, Stacey, and well done, Stacey's fella. Smart man, clearly knows his stuff. It is not the knee, Katrina. Go on, have a few more guesses. It's not the neck, but you're getting close. Again, if you've seen Waterboy the film, it's in that. The base of the brain. Well done, Stacey. It is. It's the very core part. It's a lot of the feelings get generated and things like that. A lot of the emotions get connected in that part of the brain. It's actually a really important part, and it's one of the parts that if it gets any damage at all, that's pretty much your brain gone. Whereas other parts of the brain can suffer some damage, your medulla oblongata is more sensitive and pretty much like your core of your brain. Hubby again. See, that man, he knows his stuff. I won't say what I was going to say. Oh dear. All men know their stuff. No, don't go there. Don't go there. Oh dear, I'm going to get in trouble with all the women one day. What is the name, right? Here's a hard one. It's not really a hard one. But what is the name of the Cocoa Pops mascot? That monkey. Should be quite easy, but it's quite hard at the same time. Yeah, it's not Max, it is Coco the monkey. Coco the Cocoa Pops monkey. I'm glad everyone got that. Okay. I'm going to do one more question, and it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a hard one. I'm not going to do maths because that's just it's too late for maths. It's gone 11 o'clock. You shouldn't have to do maths. How many bones are there in an elephant's trunk? And if you get this on your first guess, I will give you a clap. Yeah, hubby has a pub quiz brain. Not that he spends too long in the pub. He should clearly spend longer in the pub, refining his skills. 82, Katrina. That's a very good guess, but not quite right. Does anyone else want to? Well done, Stacey. It was 0. Yes, there's 0 bones in an elephant's trunk, which I thought there was, but it kind of makes sense. It's all cartilage, same as us, muscles and cartilage. Yeah, I thought that was an interesting discovery. Like Ant Warrior said earlier, we learn something new every day, especially me. I seem to be learning new stuff constantly at the moment, which isn't a bad thing. I like to learn. Right, we're going to go through my notes and make sure I have told you everything that you need to know. If you have any questions or anything you want to say, feel free to chuck it in the comments now. Random answer throwing. That's me normally. Just say anything just to like fill the time. Or turn the question back on them. I don't know. How do you know? I don't know. I'm just an awkward person sometimes. Okay. So we pretty much covered everything. Are there only us 3 left? There's 5 people in at the moment, Ant Warrior. 1 on Twitch and 4 on YouTube. But so for the last few here as well, so on Sunday we're holding an ant keeper night. So if you're a normal general person keeping ants, you don't have to be a YouTuber or anything. This is your night to come on. You can have like a 10-minute interview. It doesn't have to be long. It's not difficult. 10-minute interview just to kind of talk about your ants, what you've got going on, easy stuff. So if you fancy getting on just for 10 minutes on Sunday, give me a little message, because we do still have, I think, one space available for another ant keeper. And quite possibly on that evening as well, we will be having my musician friend, the guitarist, come on just to talk about his newest album after the initial ant keeper section, just for a bit of chat, bit of random fun. He's a really nice guy. I've known him for a long time, and like you say, he's a good fan as well. So it'll be, I don't think he actually keeps ants. He just watches the channel. He likes the live streams, and yeah. So I've always said, if someone wants to put music my way, I'd love to put on music from actual musicians, rather than the standard rolling over music that we play at the pre-show feeding. If I could fill it up with songs that are coming out, and it would be amazing if I could get that. So if anyone does play music, feel free to send me your music over. Katrina, definitely saving the spot for you. Feel free to send me your music over. I'll play it if I enjoy it. And it's just another way of helping people around the world. I don't know. You don't have to be part of the ant community to get my help. I literally do everything I can for pretty much everybody. Doesn't matter what it is. It's just the way I am. I love to help. I love to be involved with as much things as I can. Do as much as I can for everybody. You know what I mean. There's no point in me even saying it, because you know how I am. Like, I just can't help myself sometimes. Just cannot. But it's not a bad thing. But like I say, it should be a good episode on Sunday. We're going to have a couple of ant keepers come on. Hopefully we'll have Katrina come on. Just 10-minute interviews. Find out about what ants they've got and what kind of things they're doing with their ants. And then, like I say, we'll go on to the chat show bit afterwards. We'll play some games, do some duck races, and probably hear from my good friend Tim. That's his name. T.S. Andrews on Spotify. He's got his newest album has literally just released, and the song that I played for you in the pre-show feeding is from his newest album. Oh, Ant Warrior, brilliant. Definitely film and stuff. It's been a while since we've had an Ant Warrior video, and we all love Ant Warrior videos. So we cannot wait, buddy. We really cannot wait. To be honest, I can't wait to see the Tetramonium. I did say that right, didn't I? I can't wait to see them as it goes on. It's not a colony I've kept myself either. I've kept them on small scale, and I've got all the test tubes now, but I've never had them grow to a larger number. So I think it's going to be really interesting watching them grow. Katrina, you've had more nightmares than good experiences. To be honest, that would really be great to hear about, because we always talk about everything that's positive and how it can be easier and how to make things, but we don't really touch a lot on the mistakes and problems people have. It's one thing I always say I try and be open and honest about, is when I make a mistake, I like to tell everyone, so that hopefully they might not do the same. It's one of them, You're never going to get everything right. I still make mistakes now, all the time. What's that, like 11, 12 years I've been keeping ants? Nearly 13 years. Wow, I am getting old. 31 this year. If you didn't know, I'm 31 this year, and it would have been 13 years since I started keeping ants. I have the queen in a box, and I've not looked at her for 2 weeks tomorrow. So it will probably be of her. Oh, awesome, Ant Warrior. Yeah. No, that's awesome, Ant Warrior. Thank you very much. I appreciate you let me know about that as well. The fact that you haven't looked at her for 2 weeks, she should be doing absolutely fine. I checked on when was it? It was either this morning or yesterday morning, and they're all doing very well. Some of them have moved from their queen stage to having first workers now as well. So I expect yours is probably around the same sort of stage. Some of the ants I've been sending out, wow, so the Solenopsis fuga, their egg piles, brood piles are just crazy numbers. I don't know how many workers they'd be expecting in their first batch, probably more than the normal 10. But yeah, she's doing really well. Find mesh to stop colonies getting into the most precious colonies. Yeah. See, Katrina, one thing I always advise is double barrier. So if you have multiple ant colonies and you think they might get out, do your barrier on the inside of your enclosure, but do one on the outside as well, so that they can't climb up the outside and get in. Because I did have Lasius niger try and get into the multi-species tank last year, and they managed it, and they couldn't get back out. So I thought it was too harsh to allow that. So I put a barrier around the outside of the multi-species tank, and that way they would fall off as they were trying to climb in, effectively saving their life. But yeah, it's one of those, I've seen it happen a lot. In fact, I've seen it happen too much. And like with Holifer the other day when he released his video, Ant Holifer. In fact, Ant Holifer is coming on, I can tell you in 2 seconds. So we'll be able to talk to him about this, actually, about how he handled it all. Just looking for my list. Listy list. No. I think it's in the other notebook currently. But yeah, we've got Ant Holifer coming on very soon. In fact, I know how I can find out. But yeah, he had literally thousands of Mesobarbarus workers escape, and bit of a nightmare for him. I think they got into some of the other colonies and killed them. But yeah, not a great situation. It does happen. Ants Holifer is on May the 1st. So that would be interesting. Like I say, we'll find out what happened, how he dealt with it, and all other things relevant to Ants Holifer will be discussed, as you know. And that's on the 1st of May. But I think I've pretty much covered everything. Don't ruin. So Ant Warrior, his colony is huge, and yeah, I mean the Mesobarbarus won't be affected by it at all. Lots of them got out. Lots of them got out, but I think he managed to save what he could. But it's more the effect it got on the other colonies. Yeah, I mean, it's what's the word? I don't know. It's a difficult one. I'm not gonna say it was like, so the crack, I think, was like quite an old crack that progressively got worse as such, and it got to the point where it was allowing the ants out. In my experience, I probably wouldn't have been using the Outworld if it had that crack, if you know what I mean. But it's a hard one, isn't it? Like if you got the equipment, do you stop using it due to a small fault, or do you carry on until the fault actually becomes a fault? But I don't know. I'm just really super careful with mine. I wouldn't have been using a damaged product. But again, we shall talk to Ants Holifer about it, find out his point of view about it, you know. But as far as I know, it wasn't an actual fault in the product. It was a faulty product, if that makes sense. But I don't know. I don't know the ins and outs of it myself. I watched most of the video, I think I got called away to deal with the kids. It's been pretty hectic over the whole Easter period, we could say. But no, it was a massive shame that I can't remember which colony they got into, but I know one of those colony definitely, in the natural formicarium, it was definitely did suffer with their meeting of domestic barbarous. Instagram is where I post all my videos and stuff about once a day or so. See, I don't really go on Instagram much, Stacey. I have Instagram for Ants on the Rock, but it's all handled by my admin team. They send me all the messages and updates through to other places just because I can't do Instagram. it drives me nuts. I couldn't understand it. So they deal with my Instagram for me. Guys, with Katrina, it was funny how my Nikos and Dives never attempted to cross the middle of the bedroom to the opposite colony. They never bothered each other, nor did the Dives bother. Oh, well, yeah, that is quite interesting, actually. I don't know, maybe they smelt the scent and were put off by it. It's like small cats are put off by the scent of large cats because they know that they can't handle the fight. If you know what I mean. Maybe it's something to do with that. It's a difficult one. But right, I am going to start closing the chat show. It is 11:20, and we've had another awesome night. Thank you all so much for signing in, being amazing with your comments and involvement. It's been great fun. Thank you massively to Chris from AntsRus for coming on again. He does sponsor the show, and he's also sponsored the Ant exhibition. So he's an absolute legend. He loves to give back to the community as much as I do. So let's support Chris. You know, he's an amazing guy, to be honest. Anything else? I'm sure there's millions of things that I'm meant to be saying right now, but my brain's already started shutting down, I'm afraid. I am rather tired. It's been a long week. Just going through my notes. Yeah, I think I've covered everything. But you know where to find me if you want to message me, get hold of me at all. You know you can find me on Facebook, Discord, Instagram, Twitch, TikTok, my website, pretty much everywhere. Twitter. Yeah, pretty much everywhere we are now, and we're constantly evolving and growing, looking for the next place to put the Ants on the Rock banner. You know how it is. So yeah, on Sunday we're going to be having the Ant Keeper night, and then we'll be having a bit of a randomer chat in the evening. So that will be a really fun one. And again, thank you all for signing in. I'm going to let you go. I'm going to let you all have a good night's sleep. I'm here if you need me. I'll probably be up until, I don't know, at least midnight, maybe 1 o'clock, because I think my youngest is still awake. Bless her cotton socks. Yeah, Stacey, please do that. That'd be awesome of you. Don't forget, if you buy anything off my website at the minute, for the next 20 orders, there is 3 sets of tickets somewhere hidden in them, so you've got a good chance of getting a ticket. Does that all make sense? Yeah, I'm sure that makes sense. My brain literally just stopped. It's just given up. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. You know, it's gonna be awesome. I know it's gonna be awesome. Yeah, it's gonna be great. So yeah, if you haven't got your tickets already, get them soon. They are selling a bit faster now. It might start to pick up rather soon. Like some of the people coming, some of the vendors and some of the exhibitors, we could say, because they're not selling anything, they're just coming to show off some amazing stuff. Some of them are already selling tickets from their end as well, so these tickets are starting to fly now. So if you haven't got a ticket, try and get one before too long. I will release the last set of tickets closer to the date so that it doesn't completely sell out. And I think I've covered just about everything. So I'm going to let you go. Massive thank you to AntsRus for sponsoring the show. A massive thank you to Katrina, Kevin Rogerson, and Jason Walker for supporting me via Patreon. If you want to support me via Patreon and check out Patreon, there's all sorts of little perks and stuff that you get, which reminds me I need to give you a message, Katrina, about all of that. But yeah, don't message me Sunday daytime too. I will message you, Katrina, not an issue at all. I shall write it into my diary to message. I'll write that now. Write it now. Message Katrina. There you go. It's in the diary. So yeah, I'm going to go. I love you all so much. You've been an amazing community again tonight. Thank you for your constant support. And I shall speak to you all again very soon. So as always from me, I'll see you again soon, Ant fans.